Call of Duty is once again in the headlines. This time it is for their dramatic drop in players since the launch of Warzone 2. Now, of course, there's tons of speculation on why this is, but the reality is this has been going on for a very long time. This is a problem not just happening with Call of Duty, but AAA games in general. We have seen the release of these big AAA titles kind of fall flat or be dead on arrival. Aside from COD, the two most notable ones I can think of recently are Halo Infinite and Battlefield 2042. Again, we can speculate on why this happened, but in this video I'm going to focus more on the COD franchise just because I have a decade of personal experience, so I can offer my theories on why Call of Duty is currently failing. So to start off, I will start with the topic of incomplete releases. Now, I will touch on this later in the video, no doubt. But this is probably the biggest one that's hurting the community, which goes into their business practices and whatnot, which again I will get into later. But this incomplete release system now is just so terrible. This whole new thing where we're gonna have no combat record, no medals, no Warzone stats, no maps, buggy mess. All this stuff has been not new, it's been normalized with the releases of AAA games in general, but like I said, Call of Duty is the focus, but Call of Duty has not released a complete game since whatever was before, I'm gonna say Black Ops 3 actually, because World War II was crap and then they rehauled it and eventually it was good. Black Ops 4 had no campaign, so I didn't play Infinite Warfare or Advanced Warfare that much, so I'm just gonna say Black Ops 3 was the last fully complete COD we had. Ghosts, no one liked Ghosts. I did, but whatever. But they had Extinction, they had squads, they had a campaign, and they had a multiplayer, and they had great DLC, but their game at launch was complete. Yeah, you might have not liked it, it might have sucked in your eyes, but it had a lot of guns, a lot of perks, they had a new system, they had kill streaks, they had maps, they had Extinction, like I said, they had a bunch of content. Now we had what? We had a beta DMZ with basically nothing, basic Warzone 2, and less than basic multiplayer experience, and that was it. And that was, don't forget, that was $70 this year. And then we had a battle pass for season 1 lasting until February. It's not even over yet. February is usually the start or mid season 2. I should say it's either start of season 3 or mid season 2. And now it's still season 1 through February. I think till like February 14th or something dumb like that. It's still season 1. Which makes again, this was branded as a future of Call of Duty. MW2 is a new era, and so far it's been incomplete. But oh, don't worry, you know what's always working though on release? The microtransactions in the store. That's always there, ready to go. And this is my next point. I think the community really is also to blame for this fall of Call of Duty. We complained so much about supply drops and all this stuff, and then Call of Duty was like, okay, fine, well listen, bye-bye supply drops. Hello, microtransactions to the max. Like, I get it, supply drops are technically a microtransaction, sure, but at least like in Modern Warfare Remastered we had a way to grind towards stuff we wanted still, and that way there's a abundance of content that you could work towards. Now it's okay, yeah, you get a free gun every battle pass, and then everything else is behind the paywall. That's the only thing you can earn is that free gun. Back in the day, you could earn really anything with the scraps. At least in Modern Warfare Remastered, that's like my favorite one we had. Was since the supply drop era, I think Modern Warfare Remastered was the best system we had. It's basically Apex's system, in my opinion. Maybe I'm forgetting, but because I was a while ago, but that system I loved. Nowadays, everything's locked in. All the cool stuff is locked in the store. Oh, you remember how good the basic camo was in Modern Warfare 2 when it launched? Remember how they had to scuff it up and ruin it because no one would buy camos in the store because they were too good? Or like how, I think it was Modern Warfare 2019, the gold camo was really shit, but then the one in the store was amazing, so you would have to buy money for that. Everything's locked behind a paywall now because it works, and we'll get into this in a second here about how the big dogs, as I like to call them, which we'll talk about in a little bit, have ruined Call of Duty as well, and also every other AAA game. But the community were a bunch of criers. I'm like, this sucks, blah blah blah, fix this, fix that, and they're like, okay, you said it, so we will. And then they implement their new system that's even more scummy, and we're like, oh crap, what did we do? So I think the community being unpleasable, we can never be happy with well enough. Now we're worse off, and now they have these incomplete games being pushed out, and we're just like, well, I guess we'll take it. Which, you know, people like me and many others are just like done with it. We just don't play anymore because it's boring. Now this next topic I like to call the big dog topic. This is basically about video games starting to make too much money to where the big dog businessmen and women started noticing. They're like, okay, let me get my hands in this video game industry. So I know I said I would focus on COD, and we are, but this topic is really easy to look at if you just look at EA and Ubisoft. They're like the two biggest microtransaction people, and I believe this is all caused by the big dog mentality that came in. Because whether it's true or not, which I don't think it is, because I played video games all the time, but you know, the stereotype probably before 2010 was if you play video games, you're a loner, you don't do sports, you are a nerd, whatever it may be. It used to be kind of lame to say you play video games, and now it's like super cool and everyone does it. There's esports and whatnot. So video games used to be like a niche thing. A lot of games like Dishonored comes ahead, Metal Gear Solid, the original Call of Duties, those are made with like heart and soul. I want to say that developers played their game, they cared about the community, they cared about the player base, and they started making a lot of money. So then the big dogs, you know, the industry people who like just go anywhere that has a profit, who know how to run a business, like make super big profits, are like, oh, video games are like the new hot thing, I'm gonna get involved and run it. And they're like, well, all I care about is making money, I don't care about the player base, so what's the fastest way to make money? Well, right now it's microtransactions. I think that's what happened. I think, you know, video games were made with heart and soul back in the day because they were kind of relatively new with, I shouldn't say new, but the console gaming era was new. So there are a lot of these games being made with like heart and soul. Like I say, like the original COD team was small compared to what it is now. So eventually the big dogs set their hands on it and like, okay, now this is just a money making machine. Who cares about the player base? So now it's microtransactions, incomplete games. And I believe the big dog kind of is the biggest reason why these AAA games are failing. It's run by people who do not know anything about playing video games. They just know about how to make money within the business. And that formula seems to be backfiring now, especially with the releases of like Halo Infinite. Battlefield 2042 is probably the worst one you can think of. But then this year of Call of Duty, the last two really have fallen not well. The community has not received these last two Call of Duties well. And I'm kind of now wondering what's going to happen with the next one. Like, let's think about it. What's the most complete game released recently? I honestly would have a hard time telling you. I want to say Red Dead 2, but even that was incomplete because they ditched Red Dead Online like immediately because they went back to GTA 5 Online because I gave them way more money. Like I said, the formula, whatever makes you the most money, which I get from a business standpoint. I think also there's a legal aspect of like having to do something for your shareholders, but still there's got to be a way you can say, well, yeah, it might get you the most money, but in the long term it's not a good idea because you're gonna fall off with your player base. I feel like that's got to be a conversation that's had. Like, yeah, short term microtransactions, this new method's gonna get us a lot of money, but longevity wise we're gonna lose players. Like, I can speak from a personal standpoint. I don't play these massive AAA titles that much, and I do not spend any money on microtransactions either. Anyways, we could cover the money side of things or the big dog side of things forever, so I'm just going to post two videos on the screen that you can watch if you want to dive deeper into it. They go into much more depth on the topic. I just don't want to spend the whole video because I easily could talking about this one thing, because this could easily be seen as the biggest factor of what's causing the downfall of COD and AAA games in general. But I want to make sure I get to all my topics, so I'll cut this one off here. I think another thing that hurt COD personally was this whole YouTube Twitch era of the sweats. Basically the people who all think they're going to be pro, so they try super hard online and kind of ruin the experience for everyone else. Back in the day, it wasn't that sweaty. Nowadays, this whole new, I'm going to be a pro, I'm going to stream, and I'm going to use the best setups. And the meta, holy crap, the meta, that back in the day, you had to, you know, the only way you could find out the best setups usually was by asking someone in game who was slaying. Now it's just, there's literally an app for it that tells you the exact tuning and what gun to use. It's insane how much the meta has changed, like that, how quick you can get the meta has changed the game. But also I blame social media, you know, YouTube, Twitch era of this whole, I'm going to be a master sweat and get a bunch of viewers and be cracked on TikTok. So I'm going to sweat every single game trying to become famous. And that mentality mixed with skill-based matchmaking, which I'll touch on, but I don't really care that much about at that point. That really has crushed the experience for a lot of people, especially someone like me who used to be, I can say it, I used to be king sweat. I used to try super hard all the time. But now that I'm an adult and I have less time, the last thing I want to do is hop on and just face against cracked out kids all day. And I think that has also hurt Call of Duty and also a bunch of other AAA games. Most notably for me, Apex and Call of Duty has become extremely unfun for me because of that whole new Twitch and YouTube cracked kid era. And since I mentioned it, I'll just touch on it. Like I said, the skill-based matchmaking, I think it's like technically optimized matchmaking system or something like that. It's about basically player retainment. It sucks. And People will say, well, there should be a skill, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, maybe a slight one, but when I want to use, you know, a weaker gun or a worse setup, and then I get slayed because I'm not playing as best as I can, it just is annoying. I'm not going to dig too much into it. There's this great video I just watched on it right here where it talks about why it's not good. And Nate Shah says this more than anyone, and I don't know why this isn't a thing. Have a dedicated ranked play ready to go at launch with a system that is rewarding and interesting. Apex and Valorant all have this figured out. Those are the two other games I played competitively, I should say, where it made sense to play ranked because you got these cool rewards and you could show off. The Call of Duty even the current rank system is dumb because it doesn't really give you any sort of satisfaction. You should have stuff unique to ranked play that gives your profile unique stuff, so when people see it not in ranked play, they want to go play it. Anyways, that's where I'm going to cut off skill-based matchmaking because I feel like this is so over talked about, and it's a very simple conversation that doesn't really need to be talked about that much. It sucks. It's a bad system, and it will probably most likely never go away, at least in AAA games like this. Now, I'm sorry to say this because Infinity Ward used to be my favorite team. I think they are so lost. It is just, I don't know what to say at this point. They used to be so good at this. They had COD 4, MW2, MW3, and Ghost. Yes, I like Ghost. Now, Ghost clearly was the start of the end because this is when they implemented the super fast time to kill. And this has been their new recipe. Call of Duty is supposed to be an arcade shooter. Fast-paced, lots of kill streaks, lots of kills, all that. Now, with Infinity Ward, only Infinity Ward, mind you, it's like a milsim. And that's like their new, it's a 26, 30 kill game. It's like, holy crap, when it used to be like 80 kills. It's still like that in Cold War and Vanguard, you know, you get 80 kills and that would be a good game. Now, in Modern Warfare 2, MW 2019, it was 28-30 kill games that were like, wow, that's impressive because it's really slow paced because they killed the movement system. They, you know, took out dead silence. They made gun super fast time to kill, so you cannot kill, like, if you get in a gunfight, it's 2-on-1, you're gonna lose, most likely. The maps are designed for slow paced. They did so many things to make this as slow as possible, make it into a milsim tactical shooter, which was never been their identity. It looked like that, like COD 4, Modern Warfare, like a lot of modern gunfights. It looked like a military shooter, like an Arma shooter from the outside, but when you play it, it's fast-paced arcade shooter. Like somewhere along the way, they got confused and were like, since it looks like a military shooter, it should be a military shooter, which is, you're not Insurgency, you're not Arma. Why are you trying to be something you're not? You're not Ready, you're not. You're Call of Duty. You're supposed to be a fast-paced arcade shooter, kill streaks, nukes, all that stuff. And then for some reason, especially MW 2018 was a start, you decided to make it this tactical shooter, which again it can be a fun game, but it's just not. It gets boring real quick. Like I can't play Insurgency or Arma or whatever I end up playing. Usually Insurgency, 2 hours at a time, and I'll come back in maybe 2 weeks or a month. That's just for me. But those games don't have a lot of high player retention because they're very repetitive, and Call of Duty was like, oh well, we have some extra stuff like kill streaks or, you know, calling cards, but or like maps, but since I've already skimped on that on release where you have no content on release, there's not a lot of reason to stay for your game because they're so slow paced and boring that I think Infinity Ward needs to I think they need to lose their game. I think they're done. I used to be a fanboy of Infinity Ward because MW2 is my favorite game, which I now realize probably isn't the best game, but they need to get out. I want to give Sledgehammer one more chance. They had a lot of internal issues going on at the time of launch of Vanguard, so I will give them the benefit of the doubt. But Infinity Ward, you bragged about being like the best, like the MW2 is gonna be the best COD, the future of Call of Duty, and you have no combat record work, you have no Warzone combat record currently. When you do have one, it's not going to carry over your stats. The list, the UI, Infinity Ward, you're done. You should get out. You are the main reason Call of Duty is probably failing aside from the big dogs. You cannot make an arcade shooter anymore because you forgot what your identity was. You think you are this milsim, ready or not SWAT tactic team when that's not what Call of Duty is. If you want to make your campaign like that, totally cool. Your multiplayer has never been that. And I'm glad you killed bunny hopping and slide canceling because I hated that with the Twitch cracks and the YouTube sweats. But, you know, you took out reload canceling, which is like one step too far. You can't, you know, Warzone 2 was fun for a little bit. I still personally like it better than Warzone 1. Other than you can't sprint while playing, it was probably the biggest thing I do not like. But everything else I kind of like better. But gosh, Infinity Ward really just, I feel like totally lost themselves and are so far gone that the whole team needs to be just gone, because I don't think they know what they're doing anymore. They should just release their own game, not Call of Duty. Call it something else, because right now it's not Call of Duty. It's a milsim, and it's not supposed to be. Like Treyarch is the only savior we have left, really. They haven't released really a bad COD ever, in my opinion. I mean, I know people didn't like Black Ops 4 for some reason. I don't know why. I thought Black Ops 4 was pretty good. People don't like Cold War, which I understand if you quit right away, because it did suck at launch. But I think that was also when Sledgehammer had their game canceled, so they had to make a game in like half the usual time. And it ended up being a banger. If you played Cold War all the way through its life cycle, you will know what I'm talking about when I say that game was a complete game at the end, and it was a really good COD. I know some people don't like it for whatever reason. I think, yes, it started off very bad, but by the end, that was a really fun, complete game. And Treyarch's the only people left, and the only developer left, I think, that can make a good game, because it's the only one that's consistently been an arcade-style shooter. And also, I think another main reason is the development team. I mean, I'm sure it has had turnover, but I think David Vonderhaar's still there, who's been there since the beginning. I think their team is still, like, they grew up with COD still. They grew up with the COD era, so they know how a game's supposed to work. Whereas, like, Infinity Ward, they've had so much, like, new people come in that have never played their game, that they have no idea what they're doing. Treyarch still has people who play the game to the sense where they know what should be there, like combat record, medals, theater. Well, theater's not important, but kill streaks that are fun, high kill games, maps that are good. Treyarch at least still has it going for them. I know their zombies wasn't great in Vanguard, but I don't really care about that. That was not their game. They probably didn't care about it at all. Cold War Zombies was good, but Infinity Ward, you're done. Treyarch, you're really the only hope left. I think they should just be in charge of multiplayer. Like, I'm making a new game every 3 years, support their multiplayer game for 3 years, and then cycle the new one, and everyone else can be cut off. Maybe they can just do multiplayer, and Infinity Ward could do campaign, and then Treyarch and Sledgehammer can, like, work on zombies or something. I don't know. But Treyarch has really been the only one that's released consistently good multiplayers as long as COD's been around. Now, this last theory I have is probably the weakest one, but could the rise of PC gaming be cutting in the COD's community? Now, my hypothesis or reason for this or whatever is that now that I've graduated, school, and I'm an adult, I'm on my own, I have a job, and I have less time to game, and much more selective with the stuff I choose to do. So when a game like Call of Duty sucks or has no content or doesn't care about its community or player base, I'm not just gonna play it to play it. When I have PC now, I have like a million options. I have Hunt Showdown, I have Valorant, I have GTFO, I have unlimited games really to choose from when I want to play them. So when you're on console, really, you have a few games. Now that I have so much to choose from, I'm not going to choose a game that has no content and doesn't care about its community. Now, that could just be me, and people who PC game still are loyal to COD or whatever. But my last theory was, well, maybe now that I have like a million options on PC, why would I choose the game that's, super boring and weak? But that's just my last theory. I don't know if that holds any ground or whatever, but just a thought I had. All right, everybody, that is my reasoning for why Call of Duty has really just fell off really the edge of a cliff and just completely is tanking. I think, the big dogs, Infinity Ward, the community, incomplete releases, this whole, new mentality of the way to do things, I think that's really hurt them, and it's going to affect their bottom line eventually. I think the only hope as a Call of Duty player, or really any AAA player at this point, is you hope this industry has like a reversal of, for whatever reason. Hopefully it's going to have to be really due to like a collapse and like financial whatever. Like, people are going to have to wake up and stop buying these games, spending money on microtransactions, so they have to change their ways. Because other than that, you just have to hope you either have a morally, a moral developer who's like, yeah, I'm not going to ruin my game, I'm going to make it complete, which the only people I could have faith in right now is Rockstar, but we haven't really seen a release for them since Red Dead 2, and they also ditched Red Dead Online, so their hands aren't clean in this either. They've had their own fair share of issues. So really now it's just relying on indie games to really take the reins from here. So I don't know, we'll see what happens. I don't think Call of Duty is going to die anytime soon. There's also the theory that they're tanking because they want the Microsoft thing to go through. But even with that said, I don't know. Will I buy the next one? Who knows? I haven't bought the last two. I got them for free. So I haven't really spent money on Call of Duty in a while. So that is my opinion on why Call of Duty is failing. If you agree or disagree, Let me know in the comments below. I'd like to hear other people's input. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and stay subscribed for more. Also, if you want to hear me talk about any other topic like this, please let me know in the comments. I like talking about things like, for example, not even video games. I love The Walking Dead, but it really went downhill eventually. So if you want to hear me talk about that or something like that, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.